Hi, I'm Jerry Davis, and I want to talk to you about ISIS and super soldiers and Christianity and what this means to believers worldwide. I saw a speech a couple of days ago by the Syrian Ambassador to the United Nations, and in his speech, which I will show you in just a moment, he spoke of genetically modified soldiers of the United States being inserted into the Middle East to conduct warfare against the Syrian government. And that's a big statement, but he is the ambassador to the United Nations, and he's highly educated, and he wouldn't make that up. There's no point in making things up. So, because he'll always be proven false. So I thought, well, maybe ISIS means something that other than what we think it does. You know, when I think of ISIS, I think of just an Islamic army that was kind of cobbled together by the CIA. But no, it's much more than that. It looks like it's much more than that. I checked out ISIS. I found this website, Gnostic Warrior, Gnostic Warrior. And it says Isis, goddess of darkness and chaos. And Isis was a Sumerian goddess and Egyptian goddess. I mean, from way back. And no doubt, you know, all these old gods that we just write off as fables probably have some basis or roots in demons themselves. This Isis, and this statue is quite complimentary of Isis. She's an attractive looking goddess, but the Sumerians called her Tiamat, the serpent of chaos, mother of gods and all abominations of chaos. Wow, you know, that's not good. And on her head is a bird, and that bird is a vulture. And the vulture is that's a nasty, disgusting beast that eats the dead. Okay. And the name Isis means throne or she of the throne, and so it's just all symbolic of a world government. And you can look this up and read it yourself. I won't go through all this with you, but basically ISIS was a tremendously evil god, a world ruler that ate the dead and created chaos. And so things that ISIS did over in the Middle East, this is a Jordanian pilot that they captured. They captured several of them, put them in cages, and set them on fire and recorded it so that we could watch at home from our sofa. This is a Jordanian pilot. And these genetically modified soldiers, apparently, and the military, absolutely, they've got a $2 billion a year program to develop super soldiers that they're bad. You know, it's not like they're good guys. These are Christians that ISIS killed over in the Middle East. These are Christians that ISIS burned to death, hanging them upside down in fire over in the Middle East. And this is Rick Wiles of True News. This is a 28-minute segment. We're going to see about 4 minutes of that. It's not near the end. And he's going to talk about the Syrian ambassador. So let's cue this up and listen to these guys talk about it.
Weird story. The ambassador, the Syrian ambassador to the United Nations, Dr. Bashar Jafari, made a cryptic remark a few days ago at the United Nations. He was talking about that, you know, his nation was being falsely accused, that these were false flag, fake chemical attacks, and you know, so you were listening to his comments, and it sounds, you know, normal what he's saying. But then he mentioned genetically modified entities.
Yes.
And I had to stop and rewind and listen to it again, listen to it again, listen to it again. I want to play the video. Again, this is Syria's ambassador to the United Nations. We're only going to play the part where he's talking about genetically modified somethings in his country. Watch this.
We say to Saudi Arabia today that we eliminated its terrorist tentacles in eastern Ghouta, and I mean Jaish al-Islam gangs. Yes, we say to Qatar and Turkey that we eliminated their terrorist tentacles in eastern Ghouta, and I mean Al-Nusra Front gangs and Faylaq al-Rahman gangs. And I say to all those who exported to us armed, moderate, genetically modified opposition that we eliminated these toxic exports, and we call upon those exporters to bear the consequences of their actions, as some elements who survived would return to their original countries.
All right.
Doc?
We've been doing True News a long time.
This is one of the weirdest things I've ever reported on.
Yeah.
Did he say that the U.S. or some Western country exported genetically modified soldiers into his country?
Yes, he referred to them as chemical weapons.
Toxic.
Even. Toxic substances in his country.
Nephilim. They're
Modern
Nephilim.
day, that's what it would be.
That's what we're dealing with. He's talking about Nephilim. The Nephilim are back.
This isn't the only time he said that either. I mean, he's made that reference before.
When did he say it?
In 2016, the same ambassador, referring again to the jihadists, the ones that Saudi Arabia's put in, other people who've been armed, he brought this up in regard to Aleppo. He said that genetically modified fighters are being used and exported into his country. We actually have that clip too. He said this at the United Nations.
And this is 2016.
2016.
All right, let's watch this one too.
The Syrian government is still ready to evacuate remaining unlawful armed groups in the terrorist pockets in the eastern part of Aleppo. And it has organized yesterday a convoy to evacuate 3,750 terrorists and their families. Unfortunately, some member states in the Security Council and the mainstream media continue to defend and support the genetically modified armed Syrian opposition, moderate by definition, while turning a blind eye to the crimes committed by them.
Genetically modified soldiers in the Middle East.
The jihadists, he's talking about ISIS.
Yes.
He called them genetically modified. I mean, this is, Doc, they're Nephilim.
Right.
Now, in 2015, ISIS, one of the most shocking executions was when ISIS beheaded 21 Egyptian Coptic Christian men.
Right.
And I remember a lot of people talking about how tall these men were.
Right.
Because people were saying, hey, those aren't Arabs, they're too tall. They look like American basketball players. We've got a video. I want to go ahead, we'll show it, and we'll just keep talking. But this is what they were referring to, that these men looked abnormally tall for being Arab soldiers.
Right.
Clearly taller than their captives. Because you look at the
Yes.
head. The head doesn't even come up to the shoulders of some of these soldiers.
I mean, you're talking about 7.5 foot tall terrorists here in this video.
So now we're talking, think about this, was the ISIS invasion, which came from, I mean, it just appeared, ISIS, it just appeared.
Right.
Nobody had ever heard of ISIS. And they're going through Syrian and Iraqi towns, cutting off people's heads and slaughtering people. Did America produce these creatures in laboratories? Did we grow these things and then turn them loose on the Christians in the Middle East? For dear God, how wicked and evil are we?
And for the Syrian ambassador to come out publicly and say something like that, saying these are genetically modified entities, soldiers, terrorists operating in this region. I mean, I was shocked to hear that today. This is the first time I had heard anything about this.
Well, you know, months ago, President Putin talked.
Yes.
He told students in Russia that nations were developing super soldiers
Right.
that would have no fear, would be able to go through all kinds of pain. So this is not.
Concept. It's not even outlandish.
No. World leaders are openly talking about it. Folks, we've entered
Wow.
the twilight zone. We've entered the last days. Jesus Christ is coming. You got to get ready, church. You got to get ready. Jesus Christ is coming. Don't be sitting there waiting.
All right, that's pretty interesting. He's talking about, well, a lot of things there, but he talks about Putin, and here it is. This is a speech by Putin right here. And he's talking about the super soldiers, the genetically modified super soldiers.
Созданный или природой, или люди с религиозными взглядами говорят Господом Богом. Последствия практически какие из этого могут наступить?
What kind of practical? This means that one can already imagine it. One may imagine that a man can create a man with some given characteristics, not only theoretically, but also practically. He could be a genius mathematician, a brilliant musician, or a soldier. A man who can fight without fear, compassion, regret, or pain.
Без чувства сострадания, сожаления и без боли.
As you understand, humanity can enter, and most likely it will, in the near future, a very difficult and very responsible period of its existence. And what I've just described might be worse than a nuclear bomb. When we do something, whatever we do, I want to reiterate it again, we must never forget about the ethical foundations of our work. And you know, that's pretty cool. I don't know who this is, but that's pretty cool. This is another short video about genetically modified soldiers, just to give you an idea about the budget. But it talks about these being smarter, sharper, more focused, physically stronger than their enemy counterparts, capable of telepathy, run faster than Olympic champions, lift record-breaking weights through the development of exoskeletons. That's not, might be qualify for a super soldier, but we're talking about genetically modified soldiers.
Hey, thanks for joining me on the 180. Today we're going to look at genetically modified soldiers. Is it true? This is the article I posted on my blog, and over here on the 180 we're going to dig a little deeper, so follow me over here. This is SOT.net, Signs of the Time. The article, the U.S. Army super soldiers, genetically modified humans won't need food or sleep. Let's roll down here a little bit. I want to point something out. Right here, backed by $2 billion a year in funding, the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, recently unleashed the news after years of secret experimentations and study. So right there, they're admitting that they've secretly been experimenting, and since the technology they're talking about is genetically modifying humans, I would assume that they've been testing on humans. But let's keep running here. Here's Press.tv, or Press TV actually. All right. This is U.S. super soldiers of the future will be genetically modified transhuman capable of superhuman feats. Well, let's scroll down here and see some of those superhuman feats. Right here, do you want soldiers that can regrow lost limbs? I think that would be neat. This one here threw me for a loop. Check this out. Do you want a soldier that can outlift Olympic weightlifters and that can communicate telepathically? This implies that they've discovered a gene responsible for telepathic abilities and they're able to manipulate it. Let's keep running here. Mail online, and this is the reason why they're doing it. Okay, and this is the reason, or at least the cover reason why they're doing it. Army of the future, soldiers will be able to run at Olympic speed and won't need food or sleep with gene technology. Like I said, there's reasons here. You just have to scroll down a little deeper. And here, let me start off at the beginning here, where it says, one area of success has been in shutting off the trigger of sleep. A drug was tested on U.S. Army helicopter pilots that enabled them to stay up longer than 40 hours, with their levels of concentration actually improving after nearly 2 days without rest. And here's the reason. It is hoped to replace the amphetamine-based drugs that have previously been used to keep servicemen alert during operations. So right there, they're letting us know that apparently servicemen are on amphetamines when they're at war. So, like I said, these are the articles I cover over here at Experimental Vaccines Daily News. And once again, thanks for joining me here on the 180. And look out for genetically modified people. They're coming to a future near you.
Interesting. They are creating some beasts. I want to show you, this is the one, if you'll recall back in the news a couple of years ago, they were eating human body parts. And ISIS. This is a gentleman doing that, and it's short, about 1 minute, and you can turn the volume down. You don't have to watch it. It's gruesome. Could be worse.
راسم له قلب حب وكأنه أقسم بالله سوف نأكل من قلوبكم ومن قبودكم يا جنود بشار الكلب. تكبير الله أكبر. يا أبطال بابا عمر تطالع قلوبهم لأكلها.
Yeah. If you want to Google ISIS crucifying Christians, you can see that there are countless instances where ISIS has taken these Christian people, hung them on a cross or in the shape of a cross, and executed them. This is ISIS. And, it perfectly fits that goddess of all abominations. I mean, this is it. And certainly the Satan is behind this. But take a look. These are the Coptic Christians that ISIS captured, and they're taking them down to the beach to execute them. I don't know what's symbolic about the beach, but look how tall these guys are. Now, these are Egyptians. They're an average height for a man in the Middle East. Look at these guys. The average height of an Egyptian male is exactly 5 feet 8 inches. 5 feet 8 inches. So if this guy is 5 feet 8 inches tall and this guy's shoulder is 5'8", well, his neck and head are going to be another, 12, 14 inches. I mean, we're talking about, these guys are, nearly 7 feet tall. And they look kind of dark-skinned. This is something that is very unusual. So I just want to let you know that, we might be, Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the end. And in the Nephilim, the giants, and these are not giants by any means, but if you've got 10 or 12 of them coming at you and they're all 7 feet tall, then yeah, you might say they were giants. But this is just preparatory work. This is a laboratory experiment for the CIA or whoever is developing these people. And there's a video. You can look for the video. You can watch these guys walk. They have a gait, that is just, they lumber along. They don't. They have a gait. It's like their legs are just really long, and their feet, you can't really tell it from this angle, but their feet are huge. All right, that's enough about ISIS. I just want to touch on something that's going on in China. Chinese government is reinterpreting the Bible for the masses. A Chinese-style reinterpretation of the scriptures. You can bet that it will say that Yahusha, he became a leading member of the Communist Chinese Party. And China's not good. This is from Shubat.com. He's an Arab Christian, and but he is passionate. He is passionate, but he's talking about the Chinese government here arresting Christians for having house Bible studies and placing them in the Falun Gong, where their blood is tested for organ transplants, and they're dissected and their organs taken to be used for surgeries. This is what's happening in China. This is what China does. They cut people up and take their internal organs out and sell them. And they're going to reinterpret the Christian Bible that will be highly favorable to the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese people and the ways of the Chinese government and socialism and communism. And it's... Sometimes I think that China is the red dragon. I mean, what could be more, in our face, clear, is that China is the red dragon, because in Revelation, chapter 12 or chapter 13, it talks about the red dragon pursues those who have the testimony of Jesus and keep his commands. So it's the obedient, those who are obedient to the laws of God and who are saved. They would be in what's called the way. That's what Paul was arrested for. He was charged with being in the way. It's a noun. And what it was they took the commandments of God from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and the prophets, and also the salvation of Yahusha. That's the way. This is the world we're dealing with. It will grow exponentially worse. I want you to have faith, because I remember I had that vision, that sword coming, and the word, God spoke to me, and he said, I am coming to separate the righteous from the unrighteous. And who are the righteous? The righteous are those that keep the commands of Yahuwah. I'm Jerry Davis. Yahuwah loves you. Jesus said, Yahusha, he said, if you love me, you will keep my commands. And if you keep my commands, my Father in heaven will love you, and I will manifest myself within you. So if you want to have the character of Jesus, then you must obey the commands of God. If you obey the commands of God, then God will love you. And Jesus will manifest himself in you, because what did he come for? He said, I only come to do the will of my Father. And what is his will? His commands. It's what we call the law. Not the Jewish law, God's law. The Jewish law is something different, and it's not God's law. I'm Jerry Davis.